trucking for a free world.
So, are you a Canadian and you watch mainstream cable network Canadian media? If so, you probably actually think that the Freedom Convoy is over and everyone's cleared out and that's the end of it, right? You see, that's the narrative being spun by the state-controlled media. They are pushing a government narrative very hard. It's hilarious. I remember at the beginning of the protest when people started showing up in Ottawa, they had a couple of reporters down there, I believe CTV or Global, one of the main ones, which are the worst offenders, were down there looking for something negative, trying to put a negative spin to what was going on. And they found some big black garbage bags on the street corners. And then one of the reporters tweeted out on their Twitter account, I see this all over the city, trying to make it look like a bad thing. What they didn't mention, of course, and what media won't tell you, is that those garbage bags were full of garbage that was picked up by the truckers, and the city of Ottawa removed the garbage cans off the streets. So that's why the bags were sitting there where the garbage cans should have been. But see, that's just one example of how media twists and just warps everything. And of course, Saturday it happened again. Saturday, when the police moved in, if you watched our media, you would actually start to think and believe that this was all justified and that the protesters are the bad guys. And the police are just doing their job or, against these evil people. Nothing could be further from the truth. I don't even need to go into it. You've probably seen the videos online of what happened, and Ottawa Police Service and the media pushed the narrative that some protesters threw a bicycle in front of a police horse. Of course, that didn't happen. Ask any of the people that was actually there who had their cameras out. The statements put out by the police is atrocious, is completely false. And of course, media just regurgitated whatever the police and whatever the government told them. And that's the problem with our mainstream media. And that's why so many people have such a huge distrust of media nowadays, especially in Canada. In fact, a lot of the convoys happening across Canada are now purposely driving their vehicles to media buildings, Global News, CTV, CBC, honking their horns, trying to make a point. In fact, one of the journalists from CTV had to tweet this out just recently. He said he didn't feel safe driving around in his car with CTV logos on it anymore. And in fact, CTV Edmonton removed the logos from all their vehicles. You think? I can't believe you'd ever want to drive around and actually admit publicly you work for an organization like that in the first place. Anyways, that all being said, why don't we take a look at media from around the world in several different countries to get a real picture of what's going on here in Canada.
And with the Prime Minister of Canada, the way he's behaving right now, he's exactly like a tyrant, like a dictator.
Justin Trudeau is just a weak little man who is way out of his depth. Liberals are supposed to be all about democracy, but here we have thousands of people exercising their democratic rights of protest. And what's his response? To behave like a dictator. Why? Because again, he's actually just a weak little man whose mask has finally slipped. He isn't woke, he isn't liberal, he isn't fair and just, no. In my opinion, he's just a good-looking chancer who pretended to have liberal values in order to obtain power.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ro and Rita, we have gone from 2 weeks to flatten the curve to 2 weeks to flatten protesters, take your money out of your bank account, make peaceful protest a crime. It is an absolute disgrace. And, it is quite telling, I think, that so-called peaceful, progressive, universal liberal Canada has beneath that velvet glove, a real iron fist. And it's very, very telling because it's not just about COVID. It is about how all of these progressive governments, think about Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, think of so many others. Macron. Victoria. Exactly right. And every one of these times what's the root cause here? They've sacrificed basic principles of individual rights for the collective good. And every time you do that, it ends in tears. That is what is happening here. Make no mistake, this is what happens when you collectivize rights. You literally trample individuals underfoot.
So in the end, Canadians are nice people. The cliche is true. And they're seeing some of this. It's being hidden from them on their state media, but it's all on the internet. So Justin Trudeau is attacking human rights and attacking humans. And that ultimately is bound to provoke a backlash, and it is.
People are terrified that they're going to have their accounts frozen if they just gave to the GoFundMe.
How are they going to pay their bills, their mortgages, their rent, food?
That's an excellent question, and I think that's why you're going to keep seeing these protests pop up, because people are terrified. They have nothing to lose at this point, and this is going to be a dangerous game for Trudeau to play, because he may squash the protest in Ottawa, but he's going to have a crazy game of whack-a-mole across the country of other protesters showing up and coming out saying, fine, you want to take everything from us? You want to take our bank accounts, our jobs? We're going to have nothing better to do than to camp out in, whether it be Chilliwack, Vancouver, Toronto, Ottawa. There's cities across this country that are not going to stop, rain or shine.
And that was Lauren Southern. She is a BC resident. She's from right here, my province. She used to actually be a journalist for, I believe, Rebel News. And anyway, she has an awesome YouTube channel. You really should follow her. She uncovers a lot of good stuff. And what she said is absolutely correct. The movement is just exploding now. It's getting bigger than ever. The protests are absolutely massive in many countries. Here's just some footage from Canada and the USA over the last 2-3 days. You're not going to see this on the state-controlled Canadian media.
Stand for Canada! Stand for America! Stand for Canada! Stand for America! Stand for Canada! Stand for America!